Welcome to the show, everybody. Thanks so much for being with us. This is the Paul Harrell program, and we got a great show for you. We are, of course, going to talk about the news that broke about 15, 20 minutes ago that the murderer, and I can now say this officially, the murderer of Austin Metcalf, Carmelo Anthony, has been found guilty of murder. There was some discussion that the jury could consider a manslaughter charge. But the jury apparently didn't go for that, and they convicted him of first-degree murder. So we are going to have all that coverage, the meltdowns from the protesters, if that's what you want to call it, outside. We've got all of that, and I've got a lot to say about, honestly, just really questioning whether coexistence is possible. Of course, I know that it is, but it looks like we have a very dark road where we can't even get people to agree about the facts of the case. People are willfully ignorant or just not willing to admit that, somebody that looks like you can commit a crime, a legitimate crime, and be guilty of it and needs to go to jail for it. Anyway, we're going to talk about that. We've got a lot to get to today on the program. Also, this HelloFresh being pro-sodomy. I don't know if you know this cooking delivery service. It's disgusting, and really, I mean, you'd think, it's just like, why would you ever want to combine that with food at all? It's disgusting. Anyway, that's exactly what they do, though. That's exactly what they do. But I'm going to start today with what the thumbnail says, what the title says about what I think the country is praying for. We're going to be distracted now for the next 24 hours at least with this Carmelo Anthony verdict, and maybe we should, but today is the day. Today is June the 9th. Today is the day where people from South Carolina are going to go to the polls, and they're going to either vote for Lindsey Graham or they're going to vote for somebody else. Mark Lynch is who they should vote for, and by the way, the polls close at 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock Eastern time. So when we get off the air here at 5 Central, there'll be one more hour left to vote. So if you're listening in South Carolina, go vote. If you know of somebody in South Carolina, call them and make sure that they go vote. The Republican establishment, that is what this is about. Lindsey Graham embodies the Republican establishment. There's no doubt about it. The Washington, D.C. swamp, the permanent ruling class, if they ever needed a mascot, folks, they wouldn't have to look very far. You and I both know who I'm talking about. They already have a mascot. His name is Lindsey Graham. His name was Robert Paulson. So for years, conservatives have struggled to explain why Lindsey Graham never quite seems to fit the state he represents. If you think about it, it's very strange. South Carolina, one of the most conservative states in America. It's a state filled with patriotic people, church-going families, military veterans, small business owners, and voters who overwhelmingly support an America First agenda. Yet, somehow, year after year, election after election, South Carolina continues to be represented by a man who seems more comfortable in the cocktail parties of Washington, D.C. than the neighborhoods of Greenville, Charleston, or Columbia. And that's why Lindsey Graham has become something bigger, in my opinion, than just a senator. He's become a symbol. Now, a negative symbol to all of us, but perhaps a positive symbol to the Intel oligarchy. A symbol of everything Americans believe is wrong with Washington, yeah. Think about it for a second. Whenever there is a foreign conflict, Lindsey Graham is usually first in line. He is first in line, demanding an even tougher response, or comparing the hypothetical idea of taking Carg Island to, well, we just need to do Iwo Jima again, where we lost 30,000 or had 30,000 U.S. casualties. It's just the man is insane when it comes to his bloodlust and his forever war policy. Whenever there's a debate between the interests of ordinary Americans like you and me or the interests of political establishment, Lindsey Graham somehow finds himself standing shoulder to shoulder with the establishment every single time. Whenever the voters demand accountability, transparency, or change, really with any issue, Lindsey Graham seems to find another way to survive. And that's what he's really good at, folks. And he survives not because he's beloved, he's hated actually. He survives not because he's trusted, but because Washington knows how to protect its own. And that really, in my opinion, when we look at this primary debate that's happening, this primary election happening right now in South Carolina, that's the real story to me. I got to thinking about this. And I got to thinking about how the establishment, the intel oligarchy, the deep state, the swamp, whatever, how much pride they must actually take in looking at a state like South Carolina and finding a way to co-opt it and make it submit for so many years. Think about it. The political class loves Lindsey Graham, not because he's effective, not because he's popular, but because he's useful. In many ways, Lindsey Graham represents the ultimate Washington, D.C. success story. He proves that with enough money, enough connections, enough consultants, enough media protection, and by the way, that media protection is real. Mark Lynch, his opponent, has been banned, has been blacklisted from Fox News. With enough media protection, enough lobbyists, and enough backroom deals, you can survive politically no matter how disconnected you become from the people you supposedly represent. That's why his career fascinates, in my opinion, the ruling class. It's almost like they enjoy it. I think they do enjoy it. I think they enjoy looking at one of the most conservative states in America and saying, look what we can do. Look how completely we can override the natural political instincts of voters in South Carolina. And they've done it for decades now. Look how effectively we can shape narratives. Look how powerful the machine really is. Because if Lindsey Graham, Lady Lindsey, if he can keep winning despite decades of frustration from the grassroots and conservatives, then every other politician gets the message. You can ignore your voters. You can ignore your promises, ignore the people who elected you. As long as you stay connected to the right people in Washington, you'll be just fine. And that's the lesson. That's why this race, in my opinion, in South Carolina matters. It matters bigly. The entire country is watching. We are praying, even though, I know God's sovereign. Whoever wins, whether by hook or by crook, whoever wins, it couldn't happen without the Lord of heaven allowing it to. But we're praying that there is some relief for not just the people of South Carolina, but for the rest of the country, because this is a powerful U.S. senator that affects more than just South Carolina. He affects every state in this country. For years, conservatives have complained about the deep state. We've complained about the permanent bureaucracy. Congressman Rick Crawford did a great job of explaining to us the other day how the permanent bureaucracy is actually installed. We complain about the intel oligarchy, the foreign policy establishment. That is Lindsey Graham's, that's his pet peeve, right? Never admit you're wrong. Our foreign policy's fine. And the endless revolving door between government, media, lobbying firms, special interests, that's who this guy represents. If those forces were going to build the perfect senator, all the stuff that we have a problem with, we have no accountability, but if you are going to build the perfect senator, he'd look like Lindsey Graham. He's the mascot. He's their guy. A politician who always seems to end up on the side of more war in Ukraine or more war in Iran or Iraq or Afghanistan or Syria, Libya. A politician who always seems to end up protecting the establishment. A politician who somehow survives every political storm. That's Lindsey Graham, but hopefully not this time. Something feels different this time. Across the state of South Carolina, people are asking questions. How can Lindsey Graham claim to represent America First voters when so many of his actions have put him at odds with the movement? How can he claim to be a loyal supporter of President Trump when there have been so many public disagreements over the years? In the primary, he told President Trump to go to hell. After January 6th, he adopted the perfect narrative. He adopted the false flag narrative, obviously saying that he's done with Trump. How can he continue presenting himself as an outsider after spending decades as one of Washington's ultimate insiders. By the way, everybody's really upset right now over what's going on in Belfast, ladies and gentlemen, and this Sudanese immigrant that tried to cut the head, or maybe successfully did cut the head off. I thought he survived, but cut the head off of a British man. And you look, where did all these immigrants come from? They come from the wars. They're the results of the wars. Like when it comes to the National Guardsmen here in America that were killed at the Afghan refugee resettlement program. Guess who did that? Guess who is? There's video of him on the Senate floor championing that, making us less safe, importing these third world radicals. Lindsey Graham doing that. That's why the D.C. insiders love him so much. We're asking questions. Republicans are asking questions. Conservatives are asking questions. We don't feel like, we all know, we feel like Washington stopped listening to us a long time ago. I'll tell you this, though, when the polls close, we get the results in, if Lindsey Graham doesn't have 50.1%, it's going to send shockwaves across Washington, D.C. This election does, I think, make them nervous. This is the first time in a long time in South Carolina the machine does look vulnerable, and that's because they do have a good candidate to vote for, a good alternative to vote for in Mark Lynch. A runoff, again, would send shockwaves through D.C. The political class has spent years telling everyone that Lindsey Graham is untouchable. They've spent years telling conservatives to just accept him. Now, this is the best you can do for South Carolina, the most conservative state in the country. Oh, Lady Lindsey, he's the best you can do. No. Please no. A runoff would shatter that narrative overnight. A runoff would tell every consultant, every lobbyist, every political insider, the permanent ruling class, that the voters are still capable of surprising them if you can get over the hurdle of that. We're all thinking too, by the way. We're all thinking, what about fraud? What are they willing to do? What about whether it's, funny ballots or whether it's straight up electronic voting machine fraud that we've covered here on this program multiple occasions. There's always that asterisk. Like, will we actually get an honest poll of the people tonight in South Carolina? But I do know there is a sizable, just according to the polling that we do have, there's a sizable group of people, a sizable percentage of people that are rejecting this deep state script backing Lindsey Graham. Voters are saying enough is enough. Washington's scared. And we're going to give you full coverage. Matter of fact, this is kind of a good segue into a good Graham watch, which we haven't done on the show in a long time. At the end of the day, this isn't just about Lindsey Graham, though. It's about whether voters matter, whether our representation means something. It's about whether the people who send politicians to Washington are ultimately in charge or whether the permanent political class gets the final say. Lindsey Graham is that mascot. He is the permanent political class. South Carolina has an enormous opportunity to answer that question, and regardless of what happens, the fact that the question is being asked at all should have Washington paying very close attention. So, today, ladies and gentlemen, say a prayer for Mark Lynch. Say a prayer for his campaign. Say a prayer for the people of South Carolina. Pray that if the intel oligarchy tries to steal this election with funny ballots or electronic manipulation, they will be caught in spectacular fashion, fall into their own nets, a la Psalm 35. And it'll be for all the world to see. And pray that the authorities would also act quickly and have courage to bring any wrongdoers to justice. It's time for a Lindsey Graham watch. But before we do that, the show, 14 minutes in, starts now.
The Paul Harrell Program.
All right, folks, welcome. Sorry that was a long monologue, a long intro. As you can see, one second. As you can see, I'm flying solo today. Rob Spencer, Eric Haynes, they are out on assignment. That assignment is their jobs. And so here I am holding down the fort for the next hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes or so here on LFA TV, also broadcasting over at the Paul Harrell Program YouTube page, Facebook, Twitter. We'd ask you to do all the things. If you're watching on LFA TV Rumble, make sure that you follow the channel first, but then subscribe to the channel, okay? If you're watching over on YouTube, we want you to subscribe and click the little bell to receive notifications. Smash that subscribe button, as the young kids say. So we would really very much appreciate that. So yeah, it is time for Graham Watch. Here it is.
Senator Lindsey Graham loves New Wars. This segment is called Graham Watch, and it's dedicated to him. We see you, Lady G.
You Lady G. You Lady G.
All right, so we've got some Graham watching to do. In order to do that, though, we're going to just kind of watch Mark Lynch. But here's the down ballot. This was yesterday, or no, this was back on June the 5th. Headline, Morning Digest, why Lindsey Graham may be worried about a primary upset. That was on June 5th. Despite becoming a MAGA lackey, they say, the South Carolina Republican remains unloved by the base. This guy was in Pickens County during a Trump rally, and I know Trump gave an endorsement. Look, I respectfully disagree with Trump on this. I don't think it's a stretch that this is one of the most unpopular decisions that Trump has ever made, to endorse Lindsey Graham again after he's made posts saying, I blame myself for Lindsey Graham, and it's like he puts out another endorsement, I think yesterday, President Trump did, saying, quote, Lindsey Graham will never let you down. Go look it up. At the end of the post, Lindsey Graham will never let you down. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding? Lindsey Graham will never let you down. I just thought, wow, that is incredible, because I mean, essentially that's all that he does is let people down. Unless you're the military industrial complex, war machine, intel oligarchy, that sort of thing. But anyway, so, there's polling out there to show that he's not going to get 50%. We'll see if that's correct. You've got a lot, according to these polls, 18% undecided. So, Mark Lynch is in there, almost at 40% in some cases, but 18% undecided. Lindsey Graham, below 50%. And it depends on which poll you look at. So if this gets to a runoff, and I would assume a lot of this late in the season, you would think the runoff, if it happens, will be 2 weeks later. Sometimes it's, with the whole Texas primary thing, they waited a long time. The Texas primary was, seems like it was six weeks away from when they did it. But I'm assuming that if South Carolina, if this goes to a runoff tonight, it'll be a quick turnaround, about a 2 week primary. Why Lindsey Graham may be worried about a primary upset. Despite becoming a MAGA lackey, the South Carolina Republican is hated by the base, despised by the base. Here's some of these ads. Derek Evans, former J6er, friend of the show. Lindsey Graham is selling out South Carolina for data centers. Vote Mark Lynch. Here's just some of the ads that are going around about this race.
Lindsey Graham has been in Washington for decades, and on his watch, Chinese-linked ownership of American farmland exploded. Land tied to foreign interests near U.S. military installations, America's food supply, our farmland, and our national security should never be in the hands of the Chinese Communist Party. But Washington politicians let it happen. Mark Lynch will fight to ban CCP-linked purchases of American farmland and protect South Carolina families, farmers, and military bases.
I'm Mark Lynch, and I approve this message.
So, that's interesting. That kind of goes with a show we did a couple of weeks ago, asking the question, if we're at war with China over an AI arms race, why are we still allowing them to own land next to our military bases? It seems like this AI arms race is something that all countries are working together in tandem on to Well, you fill in the blank. I'll just say to enslave the human race. Is that too far? I don't think so. Please don't think that it is, because the second you do, it's almost like you wish it is. The second you think, oh, they won't go that far, it's like Gomer in Ghostbusters 1. It's the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. It's like we're all goners at that point. So here's Paul Dans. Keep in mind, Paul Dans, Heritage Foundation guy, helped with Project 2025. He was running in this race. About 6 weeks ago, Paul Dans dropped out and endorsed Mark Lynch, which was a very patriotic thing to do, a very humble thing to do, to say, hey, Mark Lynch is the guy. Because Mark Lynch gave himself $5 million of his own money, okay? And so he put his real skin in the game, and Paul Dans said, hey, he's got the financial resources to actually be the most competitive. So I'm not going to play the spoiler, because we can agree Lindsey Graham has got to go. So Paul Dans, several weeks ago, dropped out and endorsed Mark Lynch. It was a big deal. Matter of fact, that's where the first Trump endorsement came from. The same day that Paul Dans announced he was withdrawing and endorsed Mark Lynch, you had that Truth Social post from months ago of him endorsing Lindsey Graham and attacking Mark Lynch. Mark Lynch, by the way, we're going to get into him. He's a Christian businessman that believes that Washington D.C. is godless, and we need to reverse that, and that's a big part of our problem. And he's exactly correct in that. But here is Paul Dans walking to the polls earlier today in South Carolina.
Hey all, happy election day from Charleston, South Carolina. We are walking to the polls. We're on our way to vote with the family. Today is Liberation Day. It's the day we put Lindsey Graham into retirement. I'm asking you all to vote for Mark Lynch for U.S. Senate. This is really important. We need all patriots on deck. This is going to happen, folks. So get out and vote today. The polls close at 7 in South Carolina. Get there. Make a plan and bring a friend.
God bless.
Paul Dans is a real one, man. He is. He is. We already have reports of machines malfunctioning in South Carolina. South Carolina's ES&S voting machines are corrupt, according to Mark Lynch. He's already saying that. Watch as this machine in Saluda Precinct in Greenville County flips a vote intended for Mark Lynch. It's flipped to another candidate and ultimately to Lindsey Graham. This shall not stand. Let's see. Can we make that bigger? Watch this. Okay. Trying to vote Mark Lynch. Okay. Unselect. Vote Mark Lynch again. Wrong candidate. Then it goes, it just automatically highlighted Lindsey Graham. Did you see that? Unbelievable. So you're gonna have to overcome. I mean, and just appeal to heaven. That's what you got to do, and put it in the good Lord's hands, because you got to wonder. Again, anybody telling you that in any context, I don't care what the context is, that electronic voting machines are good, need to remain, there's nothing wrong with them, those checks and balances. No, there's not, first of all, but it's insane. It's insane, and to give people that disagree with me the benefit of the doubt, you just lack imagination. I don't think you're malicious. Some of you are, but I don't think you're malicious. With the rise of technology, the rise of AI, it's literally insane to allow machines to be in charge of picking our leaders, third-party proprietary source code that we can't see. And we were talking with Dr. Andrew Paquette last week or 2 weeks ago out of New York, saying that these electronic voting machines don't even have the most basic cybersecurity functions that any company would ever have. Say a credit card company. You know, if you enter even one number wrong in your, 16-digit credit card number, it comes back and immediately says this is wrong. They don't let the sale go through and then have to track you down. They have software in there that, by the way, the voting machines have, but that's not turned on, that can immediately detect if any one little, it's basically a data Oh, I don't know. I can't remember the technical term. I'm not a computer guy, but basically data security. If your zip code is off by one digit, your card doesn't work. These are basic ideas that our governments are totally fine with. A private company would not be okay with this lack of security. And that's before you even get into the manipulation, the connection to the internet, thumb drives, whatever you want to say, or just AI in general, or how it's very difficult to prosecute anybody if they're pushing buttons behind the scenes or putting in corrupt algorithms, because there's a very small amount of people that actually understand how you could use these machines to actually steal elections. And the smaller a group of people understand a complex system, the more opportunity for corruption is, and it's unchecked corruption. But anyway, I digress. More on this race in South Carolina. We've got General Michael Flynn. South Carolina, I need you to hear this clearly, he says. Tomorrow, Tuesday, June 9th, you have the power. Is that a He-Man reference? You have the power to remove, I know that's in theaters, you have the power to remove Lindsey Graham from the United States Senate, decades in Washington. And what does South Carolina have to show for it? Open borders, endless foreign wars, and a ruling class that answers to donors before it answers to you. This is not about party. This is about accountability. Go to your polling place tomorrow and vote Mark Lynch for United States Senate.
Welcome, United States Senator Lindsey Graham.
Do you know how you make America great again? Tell Donald Trump to go to hell.
I get called all these horrible names by Lindsey Graham, who I don't even know. I didn't start it with Lindsey Graham. I couldn't care less about Lindsey Graham.
But when I need some of those liberal votes, he's always there to help me get them.
If you can't admire Joe Biden, you got a problem. What's not to like?
We have open primaries here. That's how Lindsey Graham and a lot of guys in our state house continue to get elected, is because they're being elected by Democrats crossing over. He's not a Republican. He's voting like a Democrat. He received money in 2016 from George Soros, and he's not a rhino. He's a traitor. This is treason. He's betrayed the citizens of South Carolina, America, Donald Trump.
Hello, I'm Mark Lynch, and I'm running for the United States Senate in South Carolina to replace the flimsy flopper, traitor to the Republican Party, 30-year warmonger, Lindsey Graham. South Carolina deserves a true conservative who stands on godly principles while serving you. It's time to dump Lindsey.
We love Donald Trump. We respect him. But his endorsement won't save Lindsey in the state of South Carolina this time.
We're ruining our country and our heritage and everything we all stand for, and they're just here taking advantage of it. No weapons formed against me shall prosper.
I'm from Greenville, South Carolina, born and raised here. My wife of 37 years. We have 2 children, 4 grandchildren. I'm an ordained deacon in our church at Burnsview Baptist Church.
And my wife and I, having done mission trips all over the world, we know the next mission trip is the swamp in D.C. Wow. We all want peace. We all want freedom. We all want the liberty to live our lives without government interference and without wars going on all around us. You know, we're paying for our own destruction in America.
I'm a successful businessman. I've worked for over 50 years supporting the great state of South Carolina, providing employment.
We dedicate our business to the Lord. We bring that into the political realm too. It's a God first campaign. We know that making God first again is what will make America great again. That's the only way this country works with the Constitution our forefathers designed.
I won't take a penny from AIPAC. We've got to have true conservative Republicans that will hold the line and not compromise and not take a paycheck and sell out, sell their soul to the devil and focus on themselves like Lindsey Graham has.
And he's never voted to close the borders. In fact, one of his nicknames has been Grandesty.
We've got to stop murdering babies inside the womb. We've killed over 63 million.
America will be furious if we don't start arresting people.
America First means stop funding endless wars, reversing disastrous inflation, and creating jobs for Americans.
Our government's gotten way too big. They've stepped over constitutional boundaries. People are starving for the truth.
I humbly ask for your vote June 9th of 2026. Together, let's bring true Republican conservative change to our great state of South Carolina and America. One nation under God.
So again, that's General Flynn posted that video on his Twitter account or his X account. Also, it's apparently raining, or I don't know if it's rain. It was raining earlier. Some people were saying, Ivan Raiklen was saying that the rain could potentially keep voters away from the polls. He said this.
Oh, look at that. You hear that, America? That's Lindsey Graham crying. See that? That's all of his voters sitting at home saying, you know what? It's a little too moist for me to vote for him.
You know, you hope that's true, but you also know it could go both ways. It's going to deflate Election Day turnout. There's no doubt. And I don't know how, I'm not really sure, if it's still raining there or not. But it is interesting that the city, let's see, so on Mark Lynch's own property, apparently we've got a video of the Greenville City Mayor and Greenville City Manager's office, or at least the Lynch campaign staff reached out to them because one of their trucks decided to pull up a Mark Lynch for Senate sign, and it was in Mark Lynch's own front yard of the business he owns. So there are people that are really worried about this. Here's Mark Lynch. Again, I'm highlighting Lynch here because, well, number one, highlighting him on these different videos, but this is Mark Lynch on Steve Bannon's show. He's on Steve Bannon's show and all these other shows because he's been banned by Fox News. Now think about that. Now why? Well, it's because Lindsey Graham is got a reserved time slot. He has a reserved time slot on Sean Hannity's show almost every single night. He did the last time. He did it 6 years ago, too, when he was begging on Sean, please, send me money. And so here's what Mark Lynch said on Steve Bannon recently.
First in D.C., and we'll get rid of somebody who said, what are the reasons he's a traitor? How about, the Russian collusion hoax when he tried to have Trump put in prison and General Flynn and all these people? And I heard Peter Navarro during the break. I saw him at a faith conference when we all prayed for Trump. 2,000 pastors came to a Franklin Graham event. Peter Navarro said, I've gone to prison for 2 years, so you don't have to. And we've got to stop this. And it takes somebody like me that has faith, that's not scared of any man, that'll hold the line, and we'll put America back on the offensive where it belongs and get these traitors out of our government. We will put God back.
Very well said there. Here's a radio ad. This is how hard. Listen to some of these. I just want to highlight this radio ad that's being played in South Carolina. It goes pretty hard. Listen.
For over 30 years, Lindsey Graham championed cheap labor and illegals. Graham accepted the La Raza Capital Award in 2007 and then said, shut up, bigots, to conservatives that objected. Lindsey Graham co-wrote the Gang of 8 amnesty bill for 11 million illegals, fought for the DREAM Act, backed DACA, and pushed H-1B visas that undercut American wages. It wasn't an accident or some Democrat that did it. Lindsey is responsible, drunk on power, and never married, with no kids or grandkids of his own. Lindsey Graham rejects our South Carolina values of faith, family, and America first. He was even booed in his own hometown. Term limit Lindsey Graham now. Paid for by courageous conservatives pack.
I've been retweeting a lot of these all day. That's pretty. They throw that in there about the grandkids. Hang on. Yeah, that.
He is responsible, drunk on power, and never married, with no kids or grandkids.
Drunk on power, never married, with no kids or grandkids. I mean, what do we have to do? Spell it out for you guys? I wish that's what the radio ad said. I wish the radio ad stopped short of saying, hey, a lot of people think he's gay, and this is South Carolina, and it's like, don't actually say, hey, a lot of people think he's gay, but literally the ad should have said, drunk on power, with unmarried, with no kids or grandkids. Do we have to spell it out for you? That's what it should have said. Do we have to spell it out for you? This guy doesn't belong in South Carolina. I know this is like the longest Graham watch ever. Hang on one second. A few of your comments here on the LFA TV chat. Let's see. Sly 57, rain in South Carolina is on the west side, moving north and east. Okay, thank you for that weather update. Let's see. Chicky Mama 69 says he sends kids to war is why. Okay, that's in response to something. Yeah, he said J6ers should be shot. 100%. I see the Carmelo. We're going to get to Carmelo, folks. I've got a whole nother hour and 20 minutes to cover Carmelo. We're going to get to Carmelo. I'm going to bring you the latest news that I've got, and I'll find some during the break. But longest Graham watch ever. I know we got to get wrapped up here, but this is a big day. And I planned a whole show. I planned a segment on this, and didn't. The news is fluid here. So let's see, what else do we have? Let's see, we've got more on that. Here's Derek Evans.
Come on, South Carolina, you guys have an awesome opportunity right now. The best opportunity you've ever had and the best opportunity you ever will have to get rid of Lindsey Graham. If you want to get rid of Lindsey Graham, you live in South Carolina, get off the couch, get out, go vote for Mark Lynch, take a family member with you, call your friends, call your family. If you don't live in South Carolina, you know friends and family who do, get a hold of them, call them, tell them to get out and vote against Lindsey Graham and get him out of office. He's been polling below 50%. If he gets below 50%, there's going to be a runoff. I'm telling you guys, Mark Lynch is a patriot. He's a businessman from South Carolina who's spending $5 million of his own money to take out Lindsey Graham. He's put his chips on the table. The least you can do is get off the couch and go vote for that man. Let's get out here and let's retire Lindsey Graham today. Send a message to the rest of the country.
That's exactly right. I mean, even if you're somebody that's like, you don't like Lindsey Graham, but maybe you don't agree with Mark Lynch on every issue or whatever, the fact that this guy is willing to put $5 million of his own money into this race is a big deal. I mean, it really shows you this man's resolve and commitment if he's willing to do that. Darlene Depsey in the chat, I don't understand Trump on this one, meaning the endorsement. Yeah, I know. We don't either. So get out there and vote, South Carolina. Call your friends in South Carolina. Make sure that you do it as soon as you can. Polls are going to close. I'm terrible with this Central Eastern time zone thing. Right now it's 4:39 in South Carolina, and so they close at 7. So you've got more time, but just be aware of that. We'll remind you that periodically throughout the broadcast. We're going to take a quick commercial break. Don't go anywhere. This is the Paul Harrell Program, broadcasting on LFA TV, on Rumble. We really appreciate you guys listening. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back here in just a moment.
For centuries, light has been used to heal. Awaken the body with Red 5.
The other things that we're seeing, more and more use for is even vascular issues. So one of the mechanisms that red light, near-infrared light, or Red 5 works is stimulation of the mitochondria and stimulation of nitric oxide production. So when nitric oxide is released in cells, it vasodilates cells. It reduces inflammation. It moves blood. It brings blood flow to areas. So folks that have issues with ulcers or burns or wounds, it can help stimulate increased blood supply, and you need blood to heal. So that can open up different avenues for peripheral artery disease, for neuropathic pain syndromes. And so that's one of the other areas for nerve injury or nerve pain that we can leverage this type of medicine.
My name is John, and this is my beautiful wife, Lori, and this is our Star Wars Ewok. His name is Scout, and we have Scout for about 11 years now, and we started noticing about 3 years ago he started slowing down. He was unable to jump on the bed. He was kind of a little bit grumpier, and when my daughters, Macy and Mariah, would take him on walks, he would walk for about 30 yards, and then he'd lay down, and they'd carry him the rest of the way. So I heard about Pet Club 24/7 and about the products from a gentleman that I really trust and share a friendship with. And he mentioned to me that they have products that are going to help him with his arthritis, help him build his immune system. And I said, okay, no problem. Let's try them out. And I kid you guys not, within about 2 to 3 days, we started noticing a little difference. And then we took Scout on a walk probably about a week after we started using the products, the mush puppies, and he would walk the entire way. He would walk at least a mile. and it's just been completely amazing. He's a new dog. He's 11 years old, which is around 80 years in dog years, and he's just happy. He's more energetic. He's not the grumpy old man he used to be, and we're just so thankful. And it was perfect timing because we lost our boxer Yankee about a year and a half ago, and it was really hard on us. So I'm so thankful for Pet Club 24/7 for the products that they offer. Imagine if you could have your best friend around one more day or one more week or even one more year. I'm so blessed and thankful that we were able to find this company and find these products for Scout. So thank you guys. Give it a shot. We appreciate you. God bless everyone.
Behind every precious life, there was a choice. Behind every family moment, behind every special memory, there was a choice. A life of joy. A life that is beautifully and wonderfully made. At 7 Weeks Coffee, we are funding the pro-life movement, one cup at a time. Will you let your coffee serve a greater purpose?
The Paul Harrell Program.
Hello. Welcome to the show. Welcome back to the show. We really appreciate you being with us. So, Carmelo Anthony found guilty of murder. The news broke shortly before we began our broadcast about 44 minutes ago. It's not really a surprise. It really should be a lesson to a lot of us out there about the danger of trying to hold the young black youths, and I'm speaking in generalities here, the young black youths to the same standard that you would hold other young people to. Apparently, when you try to do that, it's just a fact. This happens a lot. Hey, get out of our tent. Matt Walsh was talking about, hey, can you turn your music down on the subway? When you do that, it is just statistically there that you're taking your own life. You're at a greater risk. You're at a greater risk because the reaction, especially if you're a white person asking somebody to conform to normal societal standards or just basic manners and politeness, that you could be stabbed to death, shot, assaulted, a victim of the knockout game. I mean, that can just happen by, being a person in space and time, walking down the street, and you happen to walk past a group of young, thuggish people, and they attack you over it. And so that's one lesson from this is just let's not ignore the statistics. But of course, that is not at all what's going on outside the courtroom in Dallas. That's not at all what is. The facts are, if somebody, I would imagine if an average black person were listening to this, especially one outside the courthouse, they would just assume that I'm a racist for talking this way, and they would assume that I don't know the facts that Carmelo Anthony acted in self-defense. And of course, I'm over here saying, no, actually, it's incredible to me that so many people don't know the facts at all. And it's really two options. Either they don't know the facts because they've been lied to by the liberal media, or they do know the facts and they're actually political activists who are intentionally, they just know. I'm not saying they're necessarily even paid. I'm just saying they are intentionally in some sort of the ends justifies the means mentality, just intentionally making stuff up because Carmelo Anthony looks like them. And like one black juror who was struck from the jury said, I can't send another black man to jail. Well, that's why he was struck. And there's going to be a lot of people making a big deal out about the all-white jury. They're going to be making a big deal that two black jurors were struck for expressing the fact, at least one of them expressing that I can't be impartial on this. So I don't know, man. They deliberated for less than 3 hours, and they returned a verdict back. And you can imagine, you got to wonder what the Dallas Police Department's going to do. Are they going to allow rioting, things to get out of control? Let's hope not. Let's hope that any sort of law breaking as a response to the justice that was handed down today is going to be. You know, you also have these people who are saying, like, this was self-defense, and the same people who are saying that this was some sort of self-defense act are also the people who were anti-Kyle Rittenhouse when he was clearly using his weapon in self-defense. And he shredded that guy's bicep. But you're not going to get consistency here. Not at all. I've got a ton on Carmelo Anthony. Here's one clip. Let's start here. I found this during the break. This apparently is from Court TV. Johnny Maga writing, Court TV melts down over the Carmelo Anthony guilty verdict. Listen to this.
I mean, I'm questioning the jury. I asked them, how did you reach your verdict? How did you reach it so quickly? What happened here? It was a 4-inch knife. He used it one time. He was pushed. I'm not saying that it was right, but what are you doing? How did you get this verdict? I'd want to know. My whole identity as a defense attorney would be in question, right? I'm questioning my identity right now, and I had nothing to do with this case. How could you come back like that? I would be enraged. I'm enraged right now. This is very upsetting. And then on top of it, to compound it, this dumb judge didn't allow cameras in the courtroom. What was your wisdom? What were you thinking? How you put on a robe? Are you that much of an imbecile that you won't let cameras in the courtroom in a case like this? This is not a rape case. This is something different. This is something that's clearly the whole community is enraged, and you knew that before the trial started. So, I mean, this is very upsetting.
Court TV meltdown, I would say that. Oh, I'd be questioning my existence as a defense attorney. Yeah, you mean that the defense did a terrible job, or you mean that the case, you just don't want to admit that the case was so ridiculous. The prosecution had 15 witnesses testifying essentially the same thing. This guy was asked to leave the tent, or maybe more than 15. Maybe I'm getting my facts confused. Multiple witnesses saying he was asked to leave 15 times. The defense, I mean, maybe the jury didn't buy the defense's assertions that, I'm not kidding you, that Austin Metcalf impaled himself on the knife. Yeah, maybe that's a dumb tactic. Maybe that's a dumb tactic when you have witnesses say, no, this guy stabbed him. Yeah, but I mean, you know, this just goes out to the masses and can enrage the right kind of people that will get enraged by it. Real quick, here's a positive note. Brianna Morello, it's not all negative outside the Collin County Courthouse. You do have some people out there urging people to come together and turn to Christ.
White supremacists, we calling you too. It is not God's will that any perish.
Okay, so moving on. Let's see. Juanita Broderick. Is this from Court TV as well? Here's some reaction outside the courtroom. Viewer discretion advised.
What do you want us to do? That's right. What do you want us to do at this point? What? I'm lost for it. I don't know what to do. I got 5 boys. I don't know what. I ain't got nothing to tell them no more. You can't walk away no more.
Rest in peace, Trayvon Martin. Let me ask you this right now. I hear.
What do you want us to do? That's right. What do you want us to do?
Teach your sons to respect other people's spaces. To teach your sons to not pull out knives for being asked to leave a place that they don't belong. Just basic manners and politeness. Teach your sons to not think of it's like teach your sons to not think that asking somebody to leave is somehow cause for murdering somebody. Like teaching your sons that if a white person tells you to please do something or to just do something, it doesn't automatically mean that they're racist and they deserve to die. Maybe that's what you can do, but again, I know I'm literally just I know I'm preaching to the choir. Also, this was a clip from the from Dallas, Fox News Dallas. This is a scene outside the courthouse where you have a somebody who is clearly, wearing an American flag T-shirt, believes presumably that Carmelo Anthony is a murderer. You have this black guy who believes that Carmelo Anthony is not a murderer, and this was the exchange.
The judge as well in this case said it was not a case about race, but you cannot deny that just the facts of the case and what we've seen play out since then and what we're happening now is because the defendant is black, the victim is white, and that's the bottom line. But again, this is what I alluded to when I said this has brought out what's bubbling right beneath the surface. The judge as well in this case said it was.
So, how do you coexist with that? This is not a person that wants to coexist. It's not a person that wants to cooperate in any sort of society. I said yesterday when we were talking about this with Rob, and by the way, Rob and Eric are out today, obviously. I said this yesterday. I was talking to Rob, you look at all this and you're reminded, wow, we're the United States of America, but in a way we're just multiple nations, trying to claim that we're all the same nation. And obviously I know this is not every black person, but you really got to wonder, how does this resolve in a peaceable situation? And I don't know the answer to this because it's getting increasingly out of hand. And one of the reasons it's gotten to this point is because you do have these female judges, most of them these woke liberal female judges that continue to put violent criminals who are black back out on the street because they believe their actions are a result of white systemic racism or whatever, Literally, we wish the world were one way, even though it's not, and I'm going to just try to make it a reality by releasing violent criminals back into the streets to kill people like Irina Zaruska or anybody else. Take your pick. The most recent example was the old elderly male teacher who was pushed down a flight of stairs and killed by a black man and who had just assaulted a white woman a couple weeks earlier, but she didn't press charges because she didn't, quote, want to put another black male in jail. So he was released to then go murder a white old teacher, a white retired teacher. Forgive me for being disrespectful. I don't mean it like old in a derogatory term, but you guys get what I'm saying. Real quick, let's go to the comments. What do we got? We've got Sophie writing, you see how he's acting. When do we ever act like that? Unless it's a white liberal. This is a great question. Sherry Welch, cocaine is a hell of a drug. Let's see, what else do we have? They have really been getting crazier. Did you see the videos of New York City after the basketball game? So sad what they're getting away with. Will the state of Texas let this, spiral into some sort of riot? I don't know. We've got Chicky Mama 69 saying that he's on some drugs. Yeah, I don't know. Let's go to the next one, shall we? So yeah, he has been convicted of murder. The Collin County Sheriff's Office is creating a line in front of the courthouse as tensions rise. This was right before the verdict was read. Let's see some of the same things. Let's see here. The judge warned everyone not to react. Do we have one about the tears? Allegedly, let's see, was that here? Carmelo Anthony. So when the verdict was read, according to reports, according to J.D. Miles, Carmelo Anthony broke down in tears inside the courtroom as the verdict was read. His bond has been extinguished. He is now in the custody of the Collin County Sheriff. I think they go into the sentencing phase tomorrow. What do I tell my 5 boys? What do we do now? Don't murder people. Yep. Matt Walsh, who's got some great takes on this. He's been doing really good work. He says, Carmelo Anthony's parents wanted their son to live in a gated community, and now he will. So it all worked out. We're all worked out in the end. I mean, keep in mind, this story you can't really talk about this story without at least bringing up the fact that after this happened, you had, the GoFundMe page where they raised, what was it, $600,000, and then Carmelo Anthony's parents bought a new house with that money. They didn't spend it on, an attorney, or at least all of it on an attorney. I don't know. Somebody even said he had public defenders. I don't know. Is that true? I saw that. I saw that somewhere. Nick Sorter, I believe he's on the ground. More agitators are here outside the courtroom following Carmelo Anthony's guilty verdict. They're calling for blacks to handle white people exactly like Carmelo. Listen to this.
To protect black people. Anytime a white man or a white child can go and put their hands aggressively on anybody and something like this occur, it's self-defense. It's self-defense. You put your hand on me and see how I respond. Beat your motherfucking ass.
What will the Anthony family do?
What will the Anthony family? What will the people that's standing behind the Anthony family do? That's the question you should ask. We're going to stand behind them and we're going to fight. That's what's going to happen.
What is your relationship with Anthony?
I have no relationship. We're brothers. We're black. We're brothers and sisters. We're blacks. We're the indigenous people of this earth.
Okay, so black supremacy. Okay, great. The indigenous people of the earth. Wow, the indigenous people of the earth. So it's black supremacy then. Black supremacists that are going to deal with white people who are demanding civility. I mean, I don't even want to rehash. I'm sitting here. I'm so over it. I'm so done with it all. And I know we're gonna cover more of it, but I mean, it's just one of these things. It's like I don't even know. I'm so tired. The whole black fatigue thing. I'm just tired. I'm to the point where it's just okay, whatever. Make your decisions accordingly, ladies and gentlemen. Make your decisions accordingly. Protect your family. Don't put them in unsafe situations. Because this is, these are the sentiments of people who just refuse to be held to any sort of standard, any sort of standard at all. Just any standard at all. Just no, we can't do that because it's racist. And I know people are saying. Some people on the right would say, well, Carmelo did this because Austin Metcalf was white. And, I mean, I don't know if you could ever truly know that for certain, but, I mean, you and I both know that, if you have a scenario where you've got a black guy on a subway who's listening to really loud music and annoying everyone. Or let's just take a movie theater example where you're in a movie, you're trying to watch a movie, and you've got, a black man who is being very disruptive and loud. You and I both know that if I were to say something and say, hey, can you please calm down? I'm trying to watch a movie. If I were to say that versus, let's say, another black man who is also annoyed, the other black man approaching the annoying black man would be far less. It would be far less risk that he would be come under any sort of physical harm or physical threat than if I tried to say something. And I think you and I both know that that's true. And so in this situation, you have a black guy who's in a tent because it's raining, and he's in the opposing team's tent. His team didn't bring a tent, so he's got to stand out in the rain. Doesn't want to stand out in the rain, so he decides to take refuge in a space that the opposing team says, no, you can't do this. Austin Metcalf says no. Now, apparently there was shoving. Those are the facts. According to, they think that it was some sort of attack, which it was not an attack. The man was being in the whole time, touch me and see what happens, touch me and see what happens. So he was touched, and then Austin Metcalf was stabbed in the heart, and he died very quickly. And yet Court TV says, oh, it was only a 2-inch blade. Well, that's enough to kill somebody if you stab him in the heart. I can't get past that comment, though. The indigenous people of the earth. The indigenous people of the earth. What else do we have here? We have a few more. So Carmelo Anthony breaks down in tears. Matt Walsh, hopefully it brings him some solace to know that his parents were able to cash in and they can go home to a nice house in a gated community while he goes to prison. $600,000 raised for his defense, and they cheaped out on a lawyer who basically said, well, maybe Austin just fell into the knife. I have that. I actually have that here. 1 second. Let me read. These were some of the things I had pulled before the guilty verdict came in. So forgive me. Some of this is going to be old news. Carmelo Anthony suffers a major blow in court after his defense attorney, Mike Howard, attempted to argue that Austin Metcalf was responsible for his own stabbing and had essentially impaled himself, prompting an audible gasp from jurors in the courtroom. So that did happen. Closing arguments. Let's see here. Here's J.D. Miles. This is what happened earlier during the closing arguments. 35 minutes each. Prosecutor Bill Werski waived the right to open, so lead defense attorney Mike Howard is starting. Quote, here's a few quotes from the closing arguments. Austin Metcalf had no legal right to use force to eject Carmelo Anthony from the tent. He had no legal right to put his hands on Carmelo. Carmelo is in a public place. We ask you this incredibly tough task, which is to follow the law. The government wants to make this case about Melo could have just left. You heard that a track event is a social event. It was completely common for kids to be milling about and go by and say, hi, stop into the tent. We know that it was raining. I don't know why he had to have this argument about whether it was raining. We know how Texas weather is, so it's easy to think, boy, I better get out of this rain. He says a witness testified we had no problem with him under the tent while it was raining. You have to put yourself in his Carmelo's shoes, so you start under that tent. You want to get out of the rain. Sure enough, one of the people at Memorial says, yeah, come on over. Then all of a sudden, Hunter Metcalf or Austin say, who are you? You need to leave. These guys are much bigger than you. Do you turn your back and walk away and take a chance that these teenage boys with their raging hormones? What? This was an actual argument? Are you kidding me? Austin and Hunter had the right to tell Melo to leave, but they did not have the right to use deadly force to make him leave. Now, if you're a juror and you hear a defense attorney say that, when deadly force is actually what was used by Melo, what are you even talking about? Melo had an absolute right to defend himself against that. How do you know in a split second of chaos when it's too late? Because if you wait too late to defend yourself, self-defense is meaningless. It's got to be a proper response in the self-defense case. And by the way, the facts just don't bear any of this out. So yeah, it's no wonder they did cheap out on a lawyer. If that's what the lawyer is saying, $600,000 you raised, you bought yourself a new house, and now your son's going to jail. But I don't think there's any amount of money that a defense attorney could have done to get this guy acquitted. Because people were there. They witnessed the event. They saw what happened. And what happened was that a white guy tried to hold a young black male to societal standards and norms, and he refused to leave and put his hand in a bag, looked at them all and said, touch me and see what happens. And then he stabbed Austin Metcalf to death when they tried to make him leave. That is not a proportionate response at all. All right, real quick, let me see before we move on from this, if I have anything else on this particular case. We got the same. It's just like the same stuff that's just like feeding the algorithm here. Let's see. What is this?
You don't know how true it is.
That's what they saying. I don't know how true it is. It just broke. God damn. God damn. That's it. That's it. Murder. They saying murder. They saying murder. They saying murder. They said no manslaughter. They saying murder. I thought it was manslaughter too. They saying guilty of murder on Fox right now. They saying guilty of murder. They saying guilty of murder.
I swear to God, I'm sick of this shit. I'm tired of it. I'm tired. I don't give a fuck. I'm tired.
So, to them, this is the civil rights issue of our time. And to us, it's not. It's not at all. It's, well, maybe it is, but it's not it's just totally two different planets. We're on totally two different planets. Now, in one of those clips that we played, you heard somebody bring up Trayvon Martin, you know. We all remember Trayvon Martin, you know, Obama. And if I had a son, he'd look like Trayvon. We remember this. And I remember that, you know, I was, this was back when I was on radio. And I still, I mean, I didn't trust the media, obviously, back then when George Zimmerman killed Trayvon Martin. But I will say this. What the media did in that case is very similar to what's being done here. But back then, the Associated Press, you know, and NBC News, edited the 911 call, and just, you know, of George Zimmerman saying he looks black, and then, you know, he shoots and kills him, and they edited out the part of the 911 call where the 911 dispatch operator asked, "What color is he?" He looks black. Not only that, the Associated Press, when it came out that George Zimmerman was, you know, not a skinhead Ku Klux Klan white supremacist, that he was actually Hispanic, the Associated Press created the term white Hispanic. So they got to run with the story that Trayvon Martin was killed by a, quote, white Hispanic. And I remember, to me, just personally, as a young radio host, journalist, whatever, that really took me to a totally different place of distrust of the media. I mean, I was already at a 10, but I could not believe the intentional deception to that degree, all to try to stoke some race war that, you know, Obama could use to further divide the country. You know, the post-racial president that was the most racist president we've had in the 21st century, for sure. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know where we go from this, folks. I do not know. But it's insane. Sound off in the comments. Let me know what you guys think about this. Let me see what we got in the comments real quick, but we're going to move on. Let's see here. Al Sharpton. Didn't he pass away? Sophie, 1916. She's tired, meaning the lady. I'm tired of this excrement. She writes, she's tired. My oldest daughter is afraid for me to go out alone. My oldest said, what is that woman tired from? Screaming? Yeah, pretty much. Remember the guy that sliced the Ukrainian girl's throat on the train or bus? Exactly. Well, was it Jesse Jackson? Bad Moon, was it Jesse Jackson that passed away? So they're saying Al Sharpton is going to speak. Is that true? Is that actually true? Yeah, I think it was Jesse Jackson. Sorry, I'm getting them confused. Yeah, no, you're right. Al Sharpton is still alive, so forgive me on that one. Yeah, I don't see anything about Al Sharpton speaking about this. Oh, so it says, somebody says Al Sharpton and the usual race hustlers will be on TV within an hour claiming. Okay, so that hasn't happened yet. But yeah, Al Sharpton is still alive. Sorry, that was Jesse Jackson. My apologies out there. Yeah. They are itching. So Angry Hot Dog writes, they are itching for a race war. They're still protesting about the Asian store owner killing the 14-year-old with a gun. Calpurnia61 writes, I've actually met a white Mexican. I was surprised. I didn't know there were any white men. Well, okay, but George Zimmerman. George Zimmerman. Okay, Sherry Welch says, no, I was making a joke about Al Sharpton. Okay, all right, sorry. But who knows what's going to happen. He'll be on MSNBC saying something, or MS Now, or whatever. Incredible. Okay, so one more post on this. Carmelo Anthony, Matt Walsh writes, is yet another young black man who threw his life away, and more importantly, took away an innocent person's life for no reason. It was senseless. It's time for the black community to stop rallying around and defending these sociopath thugs and instead work on raising children who won't make these kinds of insane, self-destructive choices in the first place. Yeah, that's true, but that's not going to happen. I mean, you look at, if you really, honestly, listening to the reactions, listening to people who have bought into the self-defense narrative and all this other stuff, it is very difficult, and I'm not trying to blackpill, no pun intended, but it is very difficult to look at that situation, look at that reaction, and again, some of it is going to be, the people are going to be the most radical. It doesn't represent, everybody in that demographic, but it is difficult to look at that and not blackpill and not, like you kind of, where is your way out of this with this kind of division? Where, we're in a situation where you can't lie and say that the other side is right. We have to find what the truth is. We're not going to water down the truth because, so you're at an impasse. You're in an impasse. It's the same thing with the Democrats when it comes to the trans issue in terms of like, how are we supposed to work together when, one side thinks that a man can become a woman and the other side, let's work on tax policy together when the other side is like, no, trans men are men. Like, that's very difficult. Likewise here, like, this is an open and shut case that fits the statistics of what is going on in this country, specifically with young black men. And the people in their own demographic, that demographic just refuses to admit fault, refuses to admit that they're wrong. And the only answer is hard political power. The only answer is doing things like sending the National Guard to Memphis and these other things. I mean, it's to get rid of these white, female, liberal Karen judges that are sending these people back out on the streets instead of putting them behind bars. And there's also the question of like whether jail sentencing is actually appropriate. I'm of the opinion that with some of these cases, we need to bring back humiliation, shame punishments, like being put in stocks in front of the town square for a day instead of getting 3 square meals a day. Because I don't know what else. I mean, at this point, I think you have to do that. At this point. Something's got to give. All right, real quick. Hang on one second. Let's go now to HelloFresh. Have you guys heard about this? I could not believe this. Even I know it's June or it's Pride Month and it's June and we're kind of, beyond all that. Last year Target did away with their Tuck It swimsuits and actually decorated for the Independence Day, decorated for the 4th of July. Instead of, shoving all of this LGBTQ, RSTLNE, would you like to buy a Val Enclave stuff down our throats. But it's still not over. Still not over. And the question is why. And this is going to go into this actually goes into these white female leftist judges, because that's who's running a lot of these corporations now. That's who's running the HR departments. And that's why we have so many of these really terrible decisions made by corporations. So HelloFresh is a company that will send you ingredients to make a good home-cooked meal. They'll send you the onions, the tomatoes, the chicken. That's what they do. I'm assuming, I've never gotten one, but I assume they pack it in dry ice or something if you've got protein in there to keep it from going bad. Well, so this is how I found out about this story. It's from Megan Basham, who's the author from a great book. It's called Shepherds for Sale. It's really good about how pastors have sold out to the evangelical agenda, carving out a safe space for Marxism in churches and denominations and parachurch ministries and that sort of thing. Megan Basham writes, well, here's our very last HelloFresh delivery. After being loyal customers on and off, mostly on, for 10 years, our faith and integrity demand that the Basham family no longer support a company that would be so disgusting as to promote their product, which is food, by the way, by suggesting it can be used by gay men to clear out their rectums of feces in preparation for sodomy. Yes, this is really what they did. It is actually going to be a little bit of a hardship on us as I continue to receive cancer treatments that require me to travel across the country every couple of weeks, but it's a small sacrifice. So we are looking for another meal delivery service. If anyone can recommend some that are easy prep, yummy, and reasonably healthy, thanks. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord, and we cannot support that. Goodbye, HelloFresh. For those who haven't been tracking this controversy, she writes, here is HelloFresh's Pride post, which includes the promo code Bottoms Up. Bottoms Up. Here is HelloFresh's official statement. We know eating isn't always a top priority this month. We respect that. But for those of you who are prepping, we have an extensive lineup of high-fiber recipes available. Happy Pride. How about a Pride Month discount code? Bottoms Up. Use code Bottoms Up for a Pride Month discount. You ask, we deliver literally. So, this is disgusting on so many levels. It has been said before by, according to studies, that, for example, heterosexual, straight, normal men, when they see two gay guys kissing, it's the equivalent of looking at maggots, on a carcass, right? The act of sodomy, I mean, it's incredible, the complete lack of shame that is evident in our corporations and secular institutions. It's really not a question of neutrality, or it's like, are you going to be a Christian nation or a pagan nation that allows everything under the sun that's evil and wicked to be promoted as good, and then you call people that are actually good and wanting righteousness, you call them wicked, and the Bible says, woe to the people that do that. And here we have HelloFresh making a post about sodomy and sodomites engaging in their debauched behavior during Pride Month. Imagine how it's just absolutely disgusting. So if any of you out there have ever used HelloFresh or are using HelloFresh, I've never used it. I'm certainly not going to use it now, but this is outrageous. And you got to wonder, in what world do they think that this is acceptable, where sodomy is just it's just thought of as just nothing, It's just a way of life now, and we can celebrate it. And this is why that pro-LGBT book, or it really wasn't a T book, it was a book in the 90s called After the Ball. And it was a strategy that was written for the gay movement to try to become the next civil rights movement. The goal of After the Ball was to try to convince the American people that the plight of sodomites was the same plight as African Americans, as black people in the 1960s, or in slavery in the 19th century. That's what the After the Ball was designed to do. And they gave their foot soldiers specific instructions to never talk about the sex, never talk about the sexual acts, because they knew the people thought sodomy was disgusting. And you can go look this up. The book was called After the Ball. Their strategy was, no, you've got to focus on love. This is about love, 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 love. You know, civil unions, civil partnerships. We're going to work towards marriage, but never talk about the kissing, never talk about the actual act in and of itself, because when you actually do that, you're like, wait, that is disgusting. Also, to this day, you can go look at the CDC website and you look at sexually transmitted diseases and AIDS and why it affects gay men more than it does other people. It's because of the sodomy. So they've completely abandoned. My point is the slippery slope is real. They've completely abandoned where we were. It used to do, oh, it's just love, just let them get married. Fast forward to, oh, we're going to make sure that our HelloFresh meals have enough fiber in it to where sodomy is more enjoyable for the gay people during June and Pride Month. It's disgusting. It's sick. New York Post, HelloFresh faces backlash over suggestive Pride Month post accused of promoting explicit content. Excuse me. Oilfield Rando says, hi, HelloFresh. I saw your Pride-specific diet, and I'm wondering if you have a menu plan specifically for people planning on inserting live gerbils. So what's next? HelloFresh. Jimmy Kaufman, highlighting the slippery slope. We went from the first gay kiss on television to buy this dinner for better anal sex in under 3 decades. And it really took off after Barack Obama projected a rainbow on the White House. After Obergefell and saying, hey, states can't regulate marriage, gay people got to get married, you must embrace the sodomy. It went from there on steroids to, we've got to eliminate mom and dad, mothers and fathers. We've got to eliminate those words from our codes, from our statutes, to transing kids and calling it health care, to parents need to be protected so they can take their kids to drag shows for kids so that half-naked pedophiles can get up on stage and get some sort of satisfaction over being viewed by little children. All of that happened in lightning speed right after Barack Obama projected a rainbow on the White House. And so, you know, what goes on here in the physical that has spiritual ramifications. We lost a great battle when that happened. When the Supreme Court did what they did, we lost a great battle. So Megan Basham goes on to say, in response to a Lauren Chen tweet, now this is going somewhere, folks, so bear with me. And really, now we're going to get into the white liberals that are the ones in charge of all of this. She says, so I just watched a little Instagram reel with a gay influencer known as Common Sense Gay, and along with calling the HelloFresh post demeaning and grotesque and disgusting, he pointed out that for the most part, it's not gays cheering the post, it's women. I thought this was particularly insightful. It is mostly women, according to reports, that are all about anal sex and promoting this gay lifestyle among gays. I mean, that's why you do have some instances where, you know, you'll see these man on the street interviews. There'll be the latest rage bait, and they'll go to a black man. Can you believe how racist Donald Trump is? And every now and then, you know, somebody will say, a black man will be like, actually, that's not racist at all. That's not, you know, just that's what, it's not common sense or whatever. And then you've got the liberal white woman that's mad at the black man for not being offended. So the liberal white woman is offended on behalf of the black man who doesn't think it's racist. This is a problem. And if Rob were here, he would be saying things much worse. So what does this Lauren Chen post say? She says, women mostly base their opinion on consensus, not reason. That's why this woman doesn't bother making an actual argument or rebuttal. Now, this is a different story It's a post from about what's going on overseas. She thinks all she has to do is signal that his opinion is weird and others will agree with her. It's shockingly effective. So this is a post from Retard Finder who says, this is what we're up against. So it's just a debate over at the BBC where a guy who is not for all these immigrants coming into his country, flooding his country, killing people in Belfast and other people like Henry Nowak, just saying, hey, look, if we limited the immigration, then housing prices would be affected. We'd have more housing. It's a very reasoned argument. Dare I say, gender-biased argument, apparently, because her reaction, she doesn't have anything other than some sort of emotional shame game that is quite pathetic. Listen.
The idea of blaming our housing crisis on immigration is absolutely wild to me, actually.
Well, that says more about you because we've got an extra 10, 20 million people come in the country.
Do you think that if we...
Do you not think an extra 10 million people is going to have an effect on housing?
Do you think that if we lock down our borders, we're going to solve the housing crisis?
Well,
is that going to solve it?
The thing is, the more people you have in a country, the more houses you're going to need. I know it might sound...
He's really good at explaining things like this, isn't he? Yeah.
Perfectly reasoned argument. The more people you have in a country, the more houses you're going to need. Does not compute. Lauren Chin is right, though. And it's really not even consensus. Let's be clear. It's not that women tend to base their opinions on consensus. It's that women tend to base their opinions on the perceived consensus. And when you have every corporation, every major media outlet, in this point, entrenched government forces that are all saying the same thing, whether it's Black Lives Matter, LGBTQ, whatever, the perception is, oh, this is the consensus now, so now I'm going to fight. Especially if I'm childless, I'm going to turn what would be my mother hen instincts, and I'm going to find a cause. And I'm going to use that energy that would naturally be used in the context of a family and nurturing children and building a house, a household, and dare I say, submitting to your husband. You're going to turn that, and you're going to find, by the way, they'd rather submit to their boss at a soulless corporation than submit to a husband at home. Ever wonder how weird? Ever think about how that's weird? Like the modern feminist woman is like, no, I don't want to be married to a husband and have kids, and I'm not going to submit to a man, as Scripture says, but they will go and submit to a boss at work who is likely a man, and they'll work long hours, even in a married context. Even the women that want to work and still have a family and everything else. And I know in some cases economically, because the CIA rigged our economy to double the tax base and funded the women's lib movement. I know that that's still a thing that happens in a lot of well-meaning good families. But if you think about how much that takes, you're going to submit to a man outside of your house, and all of this time and energy. It's quite odd, but specifically it's odd with the liberal Karen woke girl boss. It's particularly odd with that. And then there's the whole there's the whole concept of what is the real. There's a lot of blasphemy laws out there that are unwritten. One of them is telling a woman no. In our society, telling a woman no is a no-no. So in northern Kentucky, there is a gym owner who's Christian, and they got tired of the women coming scantily clad, being a distraction, and so they decided to create a dress code eliminating the option. It's like, we're not going to have these women coming in here with their cleavage showing and basically half naked walking around. There's other men here. We want to be a family establishment, and it's just getting out of hand. And you've seen this if you've been on any of the Instagram culture, TikTok culture, where these Instagram people, personalities, they like to film themselves while they're working out. And then they also like to shame the men who will look at them because they catch them on the camera. It's a whole thing. Well, I want you to watch this report from the Northern Kentucky affiliate, Fox affiliate here. Watch this.
Perhaps you saw this on social media. A Northern Kentucky gym's facing a lot of backlash after women say a new dress code policy is targeting them.
I don't know if you heard about this, but an email sent to TAC Fitness members says the gym is enforcing dress guidelines to ensure people of all ages feel comfortable, free from, quote, inappropriate or revealing attire.
Alexis Martin spoke with some women who quit the gym after receiving that email and sat down with the owner as well. Alexis.
The two women I spoke with say they were members here for years until they got that email. Now, they say despite what the owner is saying, they believe that this was targeted and that in 2026, women should not have to worry about what they're wearing to the gym.
Read it and I was like, wow, this is straight clearly towards women and against women. It's very judgmental.
We expected the backlash for sure. We never wanted to lose anybody. We never wanted to hurt anybody in that way.
This email, titled TAC Standard of Modesty, was sent to members on April 16th. It says TAC Fitness is committed to a, quote, pursuit of excellence without vanity, strength without arrogance, and influence without temptation by exposure. This email highlighted a new dress code. Among the new rules, shirts must fully cover the torso, chest, and cleavage, and your butt must be covered by your shirt if you're wearing leggings. I spoke with the owners of TAC Fitness, Kevin and Kenzie Grantland. They say as a God-centered gym, the policy is meant to keep TAC Fitness a place where members of all ages feel comfortable and safe, free from inappropriate or revealing attire.
So that says, as Christ is our center, we practice excellence to serve those who desire a healthier lifestyle. Yeah, it's not a place for hookup culture or, like they even said in the email there, temptation. If we're going to have a co-ed gym, which, by the way, you might make the argument that maybe co-ed gyms are a bad idea, but let's not go down that road. If you're going to have a co-ed gym, we want to have some dress codes to where women are not wearing revealing outfits. Something that really wouldn't be controversial, really even 20 years ago. But again, you tell women no now, and it's the last thing you're supposed to do in our society today.
Never meant to target any specific group. It was simply just to bring modesty and professionalism into this space.
Can you kind of see how women read this and were feeling targeted?
I don't, only because we literally covered everybody. We were generous in this and considered everybody on purpose because we want everybody to feel welcome.
Former members Valerie Mattingly and Michaela Beal say this policy made them so uncomfortable they canceled their memberships and never came back.
It was a direct shot towards women. I think it's perceived as not being a community. You're not a community anymore once you start judgment towards a certain group of people.
Mattingly says she worked out in sports bras because of how hot it would get at the gym and had never been told it was a problem. She was shocked when the email effectively banned much of her workout wardrobe.
And it's 2026, this day and age, women should be able to feel comfortable how they are at the gym. And I also really appreciated the men that commented, standing up, saying, well, there's nothing wrong with what you're wearing.
Beal says she's a God-fearing Christian.
The men are all, whatever you got to tell yourself, sweetheart. You're liberated up there on that on the stairs and the treadmill, yeah.
But takes issues with how these standards are being applied to women.
Control anybody else's temptations. I can't control what other people's thoughts.
Now, what did she say there? I can't control
how these standards are
Listen
being
to this.
applied.
She's going to say, I can't control other people's temptations. Real quick.
To women.
Control anybody else's temptations. I can't control what other people's thoughts, their feelings, or where their eyes travel to. That is not my responsibility as an individual. I can only control myself. I am not responsible for anybody else.
Kevin's.
So here's the truth. You're not supposed to tell women no, but here's another truth. So men tend to struggle with lust. Newsflash. Men tend to struggle with lust. women want, their struggle is the temptation to want to be lusted after. Men struggle with lust. Women struggle with wanting to be lusted after. Do you see how that's a recipe for disaster? Of course it is. But we can talk about the fact that men struggle with lust all day long. I'm not responsible. Where your eyes go, that's on you. Actually, you might. Now, I don't presume this woman is a Christian. She may be, but this idea that this is only a one-sex problem, a male problem, is just not true. And we would be wise to start to, rediscover modesty for those very reasons.
Says as a privately owned gym, they can make these decisions to build their community.
We're not going to appease to everybody, but I do think that, there is a chance for everybody to reap the benefit of the fact that we are applying modesty and professionalism in a gym setting.
Beal says the owners can run their gym how they want, but she's choosing not to be a part of it. She says hearing other women share her frustration shows why this conversation matters.
Sometimes we have been so conditioned to believe that women overreact and we're dramatic and we take things out of perspective, but not with this one. I think this one really shows where all women, or most women, I should say, have seen it the same way.
And that's because you're not supposed to tell women no. And these brave gym owners, a man and a woman, said, we're going to tell you no. We're going to say this has got to stop. It's getting out of hand. Somebody says, let's see, Bapalumbo 1958, truth, Paul. I'm assuming you're talking about me saying that women want to be lusted after, and not all women all the time, but this is a temptation that is very rarely discussed, and by not discussing it, we somehow absolve women of their responsibility when it comes to this. This is just a fact, but you'll hear sermons about men lusting, but you won't hear very often what I just said about the other struggle. Let's see. Jennifer 1333 says, yes, men lust after women, but not in a gym. Now, this is one of those things where it's like, okay, I'm really glad that women don't know just how bad. You might not ever talk to a man again if you actually were inside our heads. Let's see, Bad Moon. The fact that this is a subject is the scary part. People need to guard their surroundings and who they associate with. Hang on, there was a few more. Let's see here. So she gets. Let's see. Is this that at LJR 15001 says actually they lust everywhere: churches, gyms, grocery stores, you name it. She also says these women. Jennifer says these women are overreacting. Let's see here. Yeah, not to mention, Deb Paul in 2020, not true. My daughter had a creeper watching her in the gym, very uncomfortable. Yes, Paul, you're talking about, so you are Bapalumbo, 1958. You are saying yes, that's what you were talking about. Women struggling with wanting to be lusted after. Okay, Jennifer says, I was being respectful to both sexes. Both sexes. Okay, I get you. I'm sorry. A lot of this stuff with texts and messages and that sort of thing, context can easily be lost. I'm actually the king of texting very poorly with people because I don't take the time to actually, it can really get taken out of context really quick. So anyway, let me know what you think. Telling women no is a no-no. And I just want to celebrate these Northern Kentucky gym owners, TAC Fitness. Anybody in Northern Kentucky, if you like what you hear, you have a new gym. If you want it, you have a new gym. This is weird. Texas Scorecard, which is a great organization, on keeping track of the legislation in Texas and Republicans and Democrats in Texas and that sort of thing. They say this, Texas grocery store tycoon sponsors drag queen shows for kids. Charles Butts has repeatedly worked against parental rights activists. Now, this is an old story from 2022, and for some reason it popped up in my feed right after I was watching this, covering the HelloFresh sodomy promotion. So, but I thought this was very interesting because it's an old story, and I don't know if you guys have ever been to Texas. You can't really go to Texas without shopping at an H-E-B. They're amazing stores, but I had no idea that the owner, Charles Butts. So I think they say that H-E-B stands for Hear Everything Better, but I also thought it originally stood for, I don't know, the guy's name, which was H-E Butts. All right, so what's going on in Belfast? Let's take a look. Oh, real quick, there's this new creepy Steven Spielberg movie coming out. A few stories here, short stories. Steven Spielberg says his new movie, Disclosure Day, it's about aliens, as we're in the midst of disclosure from the government. What a coincidence. Steven Spielberg says his new movie, Disclosure Day, which releases this Friday, will leave Christians questioning their faith in God. Pretty sure that's not going to happen. The same thing that was said when the people were saying, oh, the disclosures that are coming are going to make Christians question their faith. Yeah. Again, so much of that comes from people who are not Christians really not understanding what it is they've rejected as non-Christians. So much, and we covered this a few weeks ago, so many non-Christians that think this or that is going to make us question our faith really have no idea what Christianity is at all. Even the ones who consider themselves smart, intelligent, intellectual, they really don't understand what it is that they have rejected. And it really goes to show you how having a conversation can really, open up. We really, it's not, as Christians talking to non-Christians, we really shouldn't assume that they understand what it is that we really believe, because the gospel is, at every turn, the enemy tries to pervert it, obviously, but really prevent the message from even coming across. So, I don't know. I don't want to see this movie, Disclosure Day, at all. I don't really like a lot of Hollywood stuff that comes out, just because it's so bad at this point. But the advertisements for this movie, Disclosure Day, I believe it stars Emily Blunt. And I felt weird the first time I saw the trailer. Emily Blunt is a weather girl on TV, and her consciousness gets hijacked, and she starts to deliver a message in an alien language to the world. Like, this is the setup for this movie. And when I saw the trailer, I didn't click on it by choice. It was an advertisement that came across Twitter or something like that. And she starts speaking this language. I immediately muted it. Like, I got 5-10 seconds in, and I was like, ooh, that's gross. Because first of all, I don't know what's being said. I don't know what's being spoken. Obviously, it's supposed to be an alien language we don't understand. But I don't put it past any of these people to, get us to listen to spells that are pronounced against us. Like, that's how evil I think Hollywood is at this point. And maybe I'm a conspiracy theorist for thinking that, but I would not advise anybody to go see this movie at all, because I just think it's also too coincidental with the alien disclosure supposedly coming out of the Justice Department, or coming out of the government. I just think this whole thing is a psyop, and let's see here. One comment. Bulldag. Politicians should stay out of religion. What do you exactly mean by that? Because I actually think one of the goals that I would like to see happen in our society moving forward is to debunk this phrase that you should never talk about religion and politics among polite company. Like, you don't combine the two. I actually think If you want to talk about religion, that's fine. That's okay with me. Just talk about religion. I can do that all day long. Just talk about theology. We can do that. But if you want to talk politics, you should be required to talk theology, required to talk about God. I think segmenting the two has actually been a convenient scapegoat to get us to vote for really terrible people that actually hate us. That if we were to dive down past the politics, well, you believe this way politically, but why do you believe? What about the character of God convicts you to believe a certain thing about politics? Because Christ is king over all spheres of life, all of it. It's all his. It all belongs to him. If you start pressing in to a politician and they have no theological basis for why it is they believe what they believe, you're going to find a man who has built his beliefs on sinking sand and not a rock, and that's why when the storms rage, they're going to let you down more often than not. Not to say that a Christian can't let you down. We all fall every day, but if you're going to talk politics, I want to know. I want to know what you believe about God. I want to know who you think Jesus Christ is. And I want to know about these issues. What about these issues? How do you believe that? How do you reconcile that? And if you haven't done the work and thought about that, I don't really think you should be in public office. There's a reason in the 18th century the 13 states had religious tests in order to run for office. There's a reason for that. And by the way, that was considered completely constitutional because it was constitutional to have religious tests, because it was up to Congress to not violate the First Amendment, not the states. Speaking of religion, the city of St. Paul has officially determined that the January 18th invasion of the church up there in Minneapolis, you know, the one Don Lemon got charged for going to and organizing with radical leftists, they've officially decided that the desecration of our worship was a peaceful protest.
Mayor Harrell, on April 20th, in your address on the state of St. Paul, you said that you are committed to listening and to acting and to lifting St. Paul higher to its full potential. But I wonder, do you include evangelical Christians in that commitment? Or do you only care about those you agree with? You have left us to wonder this. Mayor Harrell.
City of St. Paul officially determined the January 18th invasion of the church was a peaceful protest. And that's why the feds got involved, because they knew that would always happen. And by the way, this confirms what I said. This church up there in Minnesota, a city's church in Minnesota, this confirms what I said when this happened. Because if anything like that happened in the South, in solidly Christian red states where our worship, I can promise you that these people would have been dealt with physically and removed from the building. And basically, I mean, how far do you want to take it? Like, how far do you want to escalate? That's how far it would have gotten escalated if you would have tried. Maybe not every church in the South, but several churches in the South. If something like that was tried, it would have gotten ugly real quick. Righteously ugly, okay? If these people at City's Church had done that, all of them would be in jail right now by the state of Minnesota. They'd go after every one of them. Every one of them would be in jail who did anything. It would be a J6 all over again, but in Minnesota. So the feds got involved, rightfully so. And I don't even know the status of those prosecutions, but we need to make sure that they actually happen. Or we need to cover it. I mean, what can we do? Not really not much, honestly. Real quick, I'm going to take a break, reset here, and then we're going to end the show here in just a minute. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be back here in just a moment. Just have to take a quick break.
For centuries, light has been used to heal. Awaken the body with Red 5.
Why why is Red Vive different? What sets it apart? What sets us apart from the standard red light panels? This is a medical grade device, and what that means is the red light bulbs and the near infrared bulbs have very specific wavelengths. If you think about the wavelength as the medicine, the 635, the 670, the 810, the 850, those were specifically chosen because those are the most powerful effectors of the cells. So those specific wavelengths, when they get into our body, when they affect our tissue, they spike energy production, they help with nerve pain control, they increase stem cell counts. There's very specific mechanisms that those specific wavelengths work at, and that's the medicine. So if you think of, say, medicine as an Advil or a specific steroid or a blood pressure medication, the wavelength is the medication. The other part of that, whenever you take a medication, is dose. Right? So you have the medication. So if you take 1 milligram of Advil, and the average dose of an Advil is 200 milligrams to 800 milligrams, it's not going to work. That doesn't mean the medicine's bad. It just means you didn't take enough. Right? And so even if you have the right wavelengths, first you have to have the right medicine, and then you have to have the right dose. And to have the right dose, you have, in light therapy, you have to have enough energy. So you have to have a powerful bulb. The LED bulbs, or light emitting diodes, have a specific wavelength, and that wavelength is the medicine. And the wavelengths that have been studied and published on that are the most powerful in affecting healing and the changes that we want to see with our bodies and our health are the 635 wavelength, the 670, 810 nanometer wavelength, and 850 nanometer wavelength. Those are all going to affect the mitochondria, the cytochrome C oxidase, and affect those powerful long-term changes and affect that downstream pathways. And that's what you get with Red Vive devices. The highest efficacy, the best wavelengths, concentrated to help your health.
The Paul Harrell Program.
All right, welcome back to the show. Thanks so much for being with us. So we're kind of running out of show. I didn't get to Belfast today, so forgive me. I'm in a little bit of a Twitter spat here. Let me see if I can't check in on this post that I made that people seem to be upset. Let's see here. Yeah, so there's this YouTuber by the name of Mike Winger who generally I like his content. You know, I've gleaned a lot. He's a Christian YouTuber, pastor, a former pastor or minister of some kind. And so I really don't. I need to do my due diligence here. I don't even really know why he is deleting this app. But there's a Bible app. There's all kinds of Bible apps out there. But one of the most, at least in my circles, going back 15 years, one of the most popular Bible apps that you can buy on your phone is called YouVersion. The idea, Y-O-U version, meaning they got whatever version of the Bible you want. They've got it. It's, you can depend on it or whatever. Mike Winger says here, bye-bye YouVersion. People generally expect you to only host decent and safe Bible translations. At least that's what I expect. I'd recommend using caution if you still use the YouVersion Bible app. So to any of you out there, use YouVersion Bible app. Just so you know, Mike Winger is like, I'm out. I'm not going to do this anymore. Now, I don't know about the story. Like, I don't know why he's upset. I did limited research. All I did was just comment. I was just in passing, like, hey, I'll comment on this. And so I said, I quit YouVersion a long time ago, probably 5-6 years ago. I quit YouVersion. It was in the month of February. Guess what's the month of February? Black History Month. That's right. Black History Month. So I commented and I just said, look, I deleted this app years ago when they recommended that I should read Bible studies written by black Christians during the month of February. That's when I knew they were infected with the mind virus. And this is straightforward. Now, of course, this has triggered some people. The first comment on this is, wait, is that bad? I have so many questions on so many levels about why this would ever be a bad thing. And I said, because cultural, racial Marxism is promoted by pretty much every secular institution. I didn't expect to find it when I opened my Bible app. You could also say, yeah, like, first of all, I didn't even use YouVersion for Bible studies, number one. I used to just read the Bible. If I didn't have my actual copy with me, I had it on my phone. Number two, I don't care what color you are. Like, why during, it's Black History Month. I mean, you might as well open it up in June and get, do you want some gay, you want to read Bible studies written by the gays? Maybe we've got those for you. So I saw that, and I was like, oh gosh, okay, the cultural nonsense has infected YouVersion. It's just an app to read the Bible, and they're telling me, this month, to be in solidarity with Black history this month, you need to read Bible studies and commentaries written by black people. I said, no, thank you, and I deleted the app, and I found another app. I was done with it. Let's see, Varinka says, I've been using for years. I've never seen that. David, it's sad that you are offended because of another race. Again, not because of another race. It's because the gay race communism that is everywhere infected my Bible app. The people that run the Bible app had been infected by it, and I didn't want to have to. When I opened the Bible on my phone, I don't want to have to deal with the nonsense. And it was there. So I'm being called fragile, a white fragile snowflake. What a strange way to say you're racist. I think somebody stood up for me on that one. Yeah, a guy named Ryan the Zealot said, that's absurd to assume someone's racist when they're sick of people pushing their preferred races. Exactly. But anyway, I just wanted to share that with you guys. It's apparently, for me, this is it's weird. Twitter doesn't really promote me. I don't ever really hit the Twitter X algorithm very often. So for me to just post a random comment somewhere and get 4,000 views within a couple of hours and comments critical is a rare thing for me. It doesn't really happen very often, and so it happened. Anyway, you can follow me at Real Paul Harrell on X if you want. And make sure you go to the Paul Harrell Program YouTube channel and click the subscribe button and the little bell for notifications. Also, make sure, if you're watching on Rumble, LFA TV on Rumble, make sure that you subscribe to Rumble, like Rumble, and then subscribe to it. And share. Not only share when I'm on from 3 to 5, but I want you to share just when this all-day 13-hour stream is amazing. I don't know if there's anything else like it out there. And so you get great content, great show hosts, different perspectives. It's fantastic. So I want you to, guys, please share this channel. Share it with your friends. Share it with, on other social media platforms, whether it's X or Facebook or wherever. And let's continue to grow this thing together at LFA TV. Really appreciate it. Want to give a shout out to my sponsors, Red Vive Health, New Horizon Real Estate, Gateway Sight and Sound, Pet Club 24/7. And Sherrod Chiropractic. That is all the time that I have for this edition. I'm going to be back here tomorrow. I'm told Rob will be here. I'm not sure about Eric's schedule, but we're going to have a good show regardless. God bless everybody out there watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.